Hey, welcome to Shooting the Shit. My name's Alex with my co-host JC. Today we have a special guest, the myth, the legend, the man behind the fucking Combat Club, the voice of Combat Club, the voice of the fucking fighting in Colorado, Jordan Kurtz.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Thanks for coming in, bro.
Thanks for coming in, man.
For the people that don't know you, can you tell them a little bit about yourself, bro? For our, what is it, 14 listeners?
Hey, man, everybody's got to start somewhere. At one point in time, I was kind of in that spot just getting off the ground. So I started off the podcast called Comments from the Peanut Gallery way back when. That kind of evolved itself into the MMA plug that's now on the Mile High Sports Network.
Oh, hold on. So the comments from the Peanut Gallery is the same as the MMA plug?
So
I thought it was two different things.
So the comments from the Peanut Gallery is essentially like that's what I run like all of my socials through. That's
Okay.
like my YouTube channel, all of that. So a lot more of my individual things. But then once COVID came around, I partnered up with Ron Kruk, the voice of the LFA. Has also done a lot of work with Glory Kickboxing, with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Was one of the co-hosts of Inside MMA way back in the day, if you remember, like on HDNet and Access TV, that was owned by Mark Cuban. But when everything kind of shut down, Ron's needed some place to be able to go start putting out content and doing stuff along those lines. So we partnered up and we created the MMA plug as a show then, and that kind of turned into the evolution of like the talk show of me having a co-host and a partner, bringing in different sort of content with all the bigger names out there in the world. We've had everybody from like Boss Rutens to Big John McCarthy's and all of that. Got picked up by the Mile High Sports Network. Do have that show still every single week. That's at 2 o'clock on Mile High Sports YouTube channel. All of their digital platforms, all of that, but have then since all in that process do commentary for Colorado Combat Club, for 5280 Muay Thai, for Colorado Jiu-Jitsu Club, and for Airtight Boxing. So I've done a couple of other one-off shows out there. I've worked for Fury in the past. I've done stuff for Top Shelf Boxing. I've shot a ton of LFA shows in the past. Won LFA Photo of the Year a few years back. I worked for Baroka and XFC a couple of shows back out in Las Vegas, so that was an incredible opportunity. They also just had a huge acquisition, a big merger situation where they got picked up, and a lot more money coming in for their promotion out there. That's where I got to meet guys like we were just talking about Robbie Lawler before we got on camera, but got to meet Robbie Lawler. That's one of my idols, so it was pretty cool. So
Were you a little starstruck, bro?
that was one of the few moments where I've been a little bit. See, the thing is I've been around the fight game for so long at this point that like there's not a lot that kind of get me to that like, oh shit moment. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, one of the only other guys who really had me to that was Matt Brown.
Yeah.
When Matt Brown was training at Factory X before the first time when he was supposed to fight Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
When he had blown his knee and everything. I was there actually in the gym that day when it happened. Such a crazy situation, but I remember walking in the very first time that I saw him, and like I never even talked to Matt Brown before. Like at that point, I was still just like
You're just a fan at that point?
deer in the headlights, like young, wet behind the ears, kid in the fight game, still just barely dipping my toes into things. And I walk in and I see it, like he's just getting after it, cracking pads, and just you see the immortal tattoo across his stomach, all that, like holy shit, that is
This
Matt
is Matt Brown
Brown
here.
right there.
Yeah.
The guy who just a couple of months before just completely flatlines Diego Sanchez with
Yeah,
that
with an
crazy
elbow.
Yep, exactly. Coach Mark was at his corner for that.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was Coach
Like,
Mark,
he
Dorian
coached
Price.
him for that.
Yep.
No
So
shit.
it was that was one of the first moments where I was like, oh shit, like I'm actually kind of like in the fold with some motherfuckers out here.
Yeah.
And then obviously we have a ton of guys now who are in the dance row of rose up through the ranks, but a lot of the guys who are there now I started working with, or they were my friends way before.
Yeah, before they were in the UFC type of shit.
Exactly, like real young dudes back.
Were you like fucking? Let me get a picture, Matt. Were you like on his dick, bro? Be honest. No. You're
No,
just
I would,
like,
honestly, because Matt Brown he's that scary of a fucking guy.
fuck yeah,
Like,
he is, dude.
I was like, no
but
chance. Like
as
I
a
stayed,
fan, bro, I don't think he's a dick to the fans.
No,
if anything,
no,
you know what
not
I'm saying?
at all, but it was
especially
also
if you're in
like-
that same fucking the same gym as him. I don't think he would have been like,
But I
get the
also
fuck
never
off of
wanted-
me.
I never want to come across as a fanboy like that.
Yeah,
though,
you don't.
either, in the
You don't.
process. I never wanted to come across that way. I just remember one of the coldest things that I ever heard Matt Brown say though was, "I don't care if it's their blood or mine. I just love it bloody."
Yeah,
You're just
that dude,
that's a cold motherfucker, bro.
yeah, and I mean, he fought like that too, you
Yeah.
know? He's a fucking savage, bro.
Exactly.
So, how long was he there for?
I don't know when his first time around was. That was kind of the last of it when he had the knee injury. And then
Yeah.
he went back to Ohio, started up his own gym,
Yo.
and started basically creating that immortal fight team that he has with a lot of that crew out there back in Ohio.
Yeah.
I would probably say that, when he first came around to Denver was when Muscle Farm was in the mix way back when, and did some bouncing around with a couple of facilities out there. But with him being such a Muay Thai heavy style and Dorian Price having big connections with Coach Mark, I think that was just kind of like a match made in heaven with those guys in a way, because Coach Mark is a savage in his own right. And
Yeah.
the way that he can speak to Matt Brown's style specifically with his Muay Thai specialization, I think that was really
They
a
clicked
tremendous
as
match
a-
that
as a-
clicked. Exactly.
yeah,
Like
coach fighter type of
mindset-wise,
shit.
coach fighter, all of that.
Yeah, because I don't think Mark's style is like for everybody either, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's every coach. I
Yeah,
think there's some
definitely.
coaches that are really good with certain fighters.
Very good with
Kind of like
certain
Dwayne
styles.
with TJ.
Absolutely.
Like
And
that
then
was just a
sometimes
click,
not
but
even
it's like
just
that
style.
shit wouldn't work for me, bro. I'm not flexible to do all these fucking crazy kicks.
No,
you know?
and it's also some of it is like you have to know. I feel like from a coach fighter standpoint, you have to know how to speak to their mindset, or you have to know, like, you have to be able to vibe more than just on like a physical skill set level. Like, you have to know, or you have to have a synergy when it comes to the mentality aspect.
Correct.
Like, the different pillars, like Coach Mark likes to call it. Like, what is your mindset? What is your four horsemen of, as far as your game goes? What are the corners of what makes you who you are as a fighter? I think that all of those things have to click in order to have a truly successful relationship, to first become a champion outside of the cage, which will then translate into more success inside of the cage.
For sure. How long were you at how long have you been at Factory X for?
Since January 2018.
Okay, so you were there.
So it's like 8 years now.
Yeah.
So,
So how
you,
did you?
you train too? So
Yeah. He's
So,
fucking.
I've always wondered.
savage, bro.
I'm not huge into
You
fighting,
don't
right?
fight. You're not active though, right?
I haven't competed in a long time, but still train, still
Yeah,
always
yeah. I
in
know
the
you
mix.
train, but you did you fight though?
Never had a fight like Muay Thai,
That's what I'm
kickboxing,
saying.
boxing, whatever.
MMA?
But as far as grappling, competed a shitload of times grappling.
Just a
through the
bunch of
years.
jiu-jitsu matches and shit. No
Yeah.
gi and shit.
Exactly.
But no, you never actually fucking.
I've never had a sanctioned fight in the process.
Why is that?
I kind of got started late. Like I'm old now.
Yeah.
You know?
So you started when you joined Factory X, or were you fighting before that?
I
Because I'll be honest, I didn't even know you trained, bro.
Yeah, I,
Until my brother was like, "Oh yeah, bro, Jordan," and I was like, "Really?" I was like, because I was short. It was short. My time at fucking Factory X was short. I was like 3 months, maybe 2
Yeah.
months. So I don't think I ever seen you, but I was like, I don't know. I never I didn't even know. I knew who you were, bro, but then I didn't even know you commentated.
Yep.
Like when I think the first time I seen you was when you were commentating like the fucking behind the scenes for Combat Club when I fought in June, at Eric's gym. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this guy does it all, huh?
yeah, so I started actually, like, my jump into training was kind of a crazy one. So I used to have really long hair. And this is a funny story that everybody might actually like in the process. And I didn't train for about the first, year-ish, year and a half, maybe somewhere around in there. Yeah, about a year and a half that I was around and at the gym with everyone.
And this is in 2018.
This was 2018 into 2019. So
Okay.
I actually competed before I trained.
Okay.
So I
Competed fucking not knowing dick?
not knowing anything. Yeah.
So you just jumped in the fucking, in a jiu-jitsu match and were like, fuck it, I could do this shit.
Well, so I got thrown into a hair match. We were at UFC 241. We had two guys who were with the team at that time. Ian Heinisch and Devontae Smith were both on that card.
Yeah.
Ian fought Derek Brunson. Devontae Smith was fighting Kama Worthy. He had like 3 opponent shakeups leading into that fight. But we're out in Anaheim for this fight, right? And I'm shooting content all week, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But Coach Mark always hated my hair. Hated my long hair. He hates long hair, period. Doesn't matter who it is. And so we're there on the morning of weigh-ins.
Why is that though, bro, Rook?
Bro, he's old school.
Hey, he
Just a
yeah,
preference.
you see the guy, he's fucking bald. Like I don't know if he
Yeah.
could even grow hair, or I don't know, or he just
I'm
shaved
pretty
it.
sure it's shaved because of not being able to grow hair on top anymore. But,
The shit most men go through.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you see a lot of the old, like, heavy testosterone, whether it's wrestlers,
Yo.
boxers, fighters, whatever. Like, that's one of that's a natural sign of high testosterone. A lot of times you should lose
Yeah,
hair.
the
But
fucking Kurt Angles.
exactly. But so back to that, he hated my long hair. We're the morning of weigh-ins, so I don't know if anybody's familiar with the weigh-in process with the UFC or anybody like the UFC Fight Week stuff. It's very regimented for the most part. Like you get an itinerary, everything is usually like down to the minute, like very buttoned up. That's one thing that's different with the UFC versus every other promotion that I've worked for or covered in the process. I've covered everything: One Championship, Bellator, PFL, the UFC. Glory Kickboxing, like every big show that's out there that you could know of in the fight world that's came stateside, I've worked or covered in the process at some point in time, all the way down through the regional and local shows. The UFC, when they give you an itinerary, it is pretty buttoned up, like I say, almost down to the minute when things happen. So it's usually like, okay, if they're saying like when the fitness center rooms and all that's opening up where coffee is going to be available at 6. Well, usually coffee's available at 6.
Yeah, it's on the fucking
It's
to
like
the T.
on the dot, like to the T. So we're at the hotel. We're going through the last stages of the weight cut before the guys go step on the scale for officials. But it's about 6:20 and the coffee cart hasn't came around. And so me and Coach Mark are just kind of sitting out there. Like I'd already gone through, a couple of sits in the sauna with Ian, helping him put on the sweet sweat, do the towels, the towel mummy burrito, whatever people want to
little
call
weight
it.
cut,
The little,
fucking-
little towel party. And we're sitting out there, my hair's wild because it's been sitting in the sauna and all that, looking like, crazy Albert Einstein look, whatever. And this dude just had one of the hotel staff workers who's bringing the coffee down. You could tell that he was just hating his morning. It was a rough morning for him. And so like, oh man, coffee's here. The dude looks at me and he's like, not for you. Just looks me up and down, like sizing me up, like, what the fuck? But you know how Coach Mark is, like he misses nothing. He picks up all those
dude,
details,
that dude,
and
yup.
he's not gonna miss the chance to talk some shit in the process. You're like, damn, bro, you think he's mad because of your hair? Like, what do you mean, Coach? Like, well, your hair is just kind of like all over the place. Like, you think he's fucking mad at that?
Real quick, was it just fucking? You didn't have that bitch in a ponytail?
No, it wasn't tied up. It was just like,
You just
like,
fucking.
like all
you
over the
like
place.
rocking it like that or what?
I mean, I was in and out of the sauna. It was just whatever. Like,
You
it
couldn't
was-
fucking.
The hair was doing its thing, bro.
Bro, you couldn't just fucking
was
tie it
6
up,
inches.
bro.
Well, I would usually I wore a hat a lot of times, and like it just kind of flowed out of the hat.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
I just didn't have the hat on it. Like I
Like
wore
straight up skater shit.
kind of in a way.
Yeah.
Like somewhat in that sense. So I could tell right then and there, like the wheels start spinning for him. Like, what would it take for you to cut it? Like, Coach, like I don't know, like I just kind of I don't want to. Like it's kind of like my rebellion, whatever, blah blah blah. And like
my character.
if it was the right sort of like the right wager, the right stipulation out there, I'd consider it. So that happens right there. We get back, we finish up the weight cut. Both guys make weight successfully. We're sitting in the breakfast place afterwards. The whole time, Mark's wheels, his little hamster wheel is spinning on how he can try to figure out how to get my hair to be cut. So one of the guys that was also with Ian, who had been training, this kid had been training for probably close to a year, a few months, whatever in there. And also the day after the fights, we had a plan that we were going to CT Fletcher's gym. I don't know if you know who CT
Yeah.
Fletcher is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we were going to CT Fletcher's gym the day after, and he was going to put them through like his gauntlet workout. And
So this isn't like California, right?
yeah,
This
this is
is-
Southern
yeah.
California, yeah.
Yep.
And so this kid has been training, right? Like he's been doing a shitload of strength and conditioning because he wants to be able to A, look good on camera, and B, be able to go through CT's workout.
For sure.
He's also been doing some jiu-jitsu and has been training in the gym for the last, roughly like year-ish, around in there, somewhere in that time frame. Has had actual like time on the mats and experience. The last time that I had stepped on a mat and done anything was middle school wrestling.
Okay.
Like half of my life prior to that. So it just all of a sudden happens, and I have a video of it still because I was filming everything, right, for Fight Week. Mark I got it. Jordan, you and Nate, 5-minute grappling match for your hair.
Damn, some fucking straight up luchador shit. You know when the dude with the long hair wrestles the dude with the mask,
mask,
and the
loser
loser
takes
either
it
takes it or they have to reveal the fucking face.
Yeah.
So what about the other dude?
What was he wagering?
Yeah, what was his shit?
That's what I asked Mark right there. It was like because he had already had a haircut before, and we had a barber that was coming to the Airbnb later to cut up all the guys before
Yeah.
ceremonial
Make-
weigh-ins
yeah, make
for
them look
a
nice.
TV show, all of that. And so I was gonna have to have my head shaved when the barber was gonna come to the Airbnb, and I said, well, what does he lose? Like, well, he just doesn't get his haircut today. Like, we already got a fucking haircut on Monday before we went out here for fight week.
This is
And
still
like,
fresh.
Like, what do I get if I win? And then Marcus looks at me, he's like, you get the greatest satisfaction of all. It's why we do this in the beginning. You get to say that you beat that motherfucker's ass.
So that was it. Huh?
So I knew then and there that it was more than just a hair match. It was more than just about the hair. It was a character test. It was a gut check test.
Yeah,
It was something to see, like, okay,
some prison shit,
does
bro.
this kid have, like, does he have some heart? Like, okay,
At that point, you could have rocked the hair in front of the coach and said, "I earned this."
That's true.
And so that all circles to a couple of hours later, we go down into the training room at the hotel, and we're sharing the same training room as, there's usually multiple different camps that are in there in the process. It was a lot of the AKA crew, like DC's crew that was in there. This was DC Stipe 2. That was the headliner for that pay-per-view.
Luke was in there and shit. Luke, Rockhold.
It was like Sean Bunch and a lot of those guys out there. Luke wasn't in there, but it was a lot of their their people in the mix. There was a few other people from the other camps that were around. So probably like 30, 40 people, whatever, in the room. Along with, we weighed in for the UFC blue shirts. Like Dean, the guy who is the backstage, like runs everything, all the operations. He weighs us in, and we weighed in like a 2-pound difference between the two of us.
Yeah.
We had.
Shut the fuck. So this is all fucking before like the real show.
Yes.
You guys are just fucking around over here doing this bullshit.
Yes. We have
fucking funny.
A rain car girl situation going on, and then,
This motherfucker weighed you guys?
bro, we weighed in for the UFC blue shirts and everything. Like, I have all this on video, and so we have a full on face off. I hit him with the Mike Perry. You thought you had a friend, boy?
Hell no.
So we get after it. We have a 5-minute grappling match. Had a couple of opportunities. Like, we both had some attacks that went for it. Like, he couldn't submit me. I didn't submit him. We go all the way to the 5 minutes. Now, this is where I have some beef with some of the jiu-jitsu shit. Sometimes it's subjective scoring with jiu-jitsu, and like, okay, you take somebody down, but maybe they're grabbing your neck in the process, or they'll call that someone's pulling guard. Well, like, my only experience from it was wrestling way back in the day of, hey, we started on the feet, and we ended up down on the ground, and I'm on top of you.
I got position,
Like,
so points on
that
you or
should
whatever.
That should
Fuck
be
you.
two directions. But with the way that it was scored, it ends up being a draw. I didn't get 2 points for one of those takedowns.
Okay, so who's scoring this shit?
Professor Busy was.
Okay.
So in one of those, like, he'd say, well, hey, like, he was grabbing your neck in the process, so like that doesn't count, like, technically as a takedown. But again, like, there was a couple of situations, back and forth, where if I would have known what I knew, even just 3 to 6 months into training, probably would have finished a couple of those chokes or those attacks. I just didn't know what you don't know. Like, I got his neck, but I'm pulling versus crunching for a guillotine, little things like that. Then, so we go to a draw, so it's basically a push in that sense. But then,
so there's a ref and shit in between all this shit while it's happening. Like, it's fucking guys. Hey, 2 points over here, 2 points over there.
It's a full.
It's a fucking almost a sanctioned fucking.
Oh, it's a full-on match.
They got weighed in, face off, the whole thing.
That's
so
too fucking
right
funny.
afterwards, he goes though, and like, so I made him puke. Like, the pace was so high, and even
That's
again,
tight.
like, bro, like, I'm not in shape. Like, I was broke as a joke back then, trying to get everything going, like living off of like 1 meal a day back then, sort of thing. Like, the most that I had been eating in a single day was being out there with all of those guys taking care of me for doing media shit.
Yeah, they were feeding you, bro, for just being
Being around. Like, that was a real, like, tales from the grind sort of situation back then, like really getting up and going. But then so I make him puke in the process, and then Coach Mark's like, well, shit, the fight game, you make a motherfucker puke, that's a TKO. So I'll take that as, like, it was officially, as far as the match goes, a draw, but then Mark saying that afterwards, like, I'll take that as a big win. And then after that, he said, hey, like,
especially coming from him, right?
Yeah, and coming from him, I'm not going to tell you shit about your hair anymore. Like, that was part of the stipulation, was if I didn't lose, he was going to stop giving me shit about my hair. Okay. And to his credit, he never did again after that, until I ended up cutting it. And then later on that night, after we have team dinner and everything, we're sitting in the Airbnb, and just kind of like this, just kind of shooting the shit right there. He has his little drink in his hand. It's me, Austin Jones, Coach Mark, and Coach G.
Yeah,
And,
I know all those guys. Shout out to those guys, man.
Oh
They're
yeah,
good people.
yeah, tremendous people out there. And so Mark's just looking across the room at me, and he just has this like this big old grin, just like looking at me across the room. And was like, "What's up, Coach?" I was like, "Bet you have an overwhelming sense of fulfillment right now, don't you?" Like, Coach, I feel fucking great. Like,
You
"Sure."
feel like you just won the fucking UFC title,
Oh,
man?
bro, like I was feeling like that. And he tells me, you know what? And this was like one of the biggest like beats chest sort of moments that I have ever had in my whole fucking life. He goes, you know what? I challenge you today, son. You step the fuck up. I'm proud of you. And like when he said that, it was just like, like
Hey,
inside,
bro,
like
this
I'm
motherfucker's
poker
acting
facing
like
it.
the fucking shot caller in a fucking prison, huh? You did good, son.
That was like kind of in a sense what it was. And then, you know,
Like
he,
some gang shit, bro.
and also, mind you, there was like 2,000 people that this was live streamed online. Like it was Ian and Devontae's fight week, so they're
Yeah.
both live streaming it on their social medias, and so like everybody's tuned in for them fight week stuff. Each of them have like 1,000+ people that are tuning in and watching this shit. We have people that are in the room, like there's people panning with cameras. I like screen recorded all their shit. Like this is awesome, sort of thing.
So
Like,
everybody was just around you guys, just watching this fucking grappling
yes,
match.
it was
bro.
like some fucking real like Lionheart type of shit.
no
Like,
shit.
like just in front of a crowd. Of
You guys
people
had
just
more
circled
people than the actual fucking UFC fight, bro.
Not in the whole fight in that sense, but like, bro, the early days of Apex, we had more people in the fucking room watching that than like the first, you know, however many Apex cards before
Yeah.
they built the stands in there.
Yo.
Yeah,
No
it was
shit.
absolutely insane.
So when did you realize the long hair was just like a fucking no go? When you were like, dude, all right, fuck this shit, I'm gonna cut this motherfucker.
It was when there started being more on-camera opportunities, more like TV or like
Because
promo
you
sort
just
of
wanted to be
things.
clean cut, or was it like did somebody say something like, hey, dude, that shit
they-
looks dirty, dog?
Do they prefer that look? Is it?
It's a lot more of that, you know.
Yeah.
Like people who are controlling the shots are a lot more, you know, old school or traditional in that sense with broadcast sort of things. They just, you know, and me and Coach Mark had a real long conversation about it too. It was just more or less like, well, in terms of what I do, as far as being like a play-by-play guy or being able to speak to the fight game, there's not a lot of people who can bring to the table what I do.
I agree.
And I'm trying to be, you know, humble in that sense, but I really do think that I'm on a short list of some of the best in the world of being able to do commentary, be able to provide an analytic perspective along with having some actual time in the saddle of training, being in the mix on the mat with some of the best guys out there. No, I haven't had a sanctioned fight, so I can't speak to that directly, but I can speak to a lot of things very fluidly from having all the experience within the gym and being around these guys all the time. Like, I like to think of it in a way like studying from Coach Mark or from some of the other guys like Yusuf to back when he was still around, guys like Markel or any of those guys out there who are just wizards in terms of IQ and knowledge.
Yeah.
Kobe Jones was one of my best friends, still one of my best friends to this day. Like a lot of those guys out there, Chris Gutierrez.
Yeah.
These guys are masters of combat sports, but me spending so much time under them, it's almost like I have a doctorate level education within fighting.
You don't think that you actually having a sanctioned fight would get you to be even better? Because
I think that it would.
you're around these fucking guys. Yeah, they're all high level guys. You're fucking backstage with them. You're cutting the weight. But at the end of the day, it's not you making that walk. So like, yeah, do you get nervous for your fucking, you know, your stablemates? Of course, but it's not you. You know what I'm saying? So don't you think if you were even to do maybe 2 fights, you could even relate even a little tiny bit more to these guys? You know what I'm saying?
You know, and hopefully, you know, long term, that is a goal that I would like to cross off at some point.
I
But
think you should, bro.
there's also, you know, just self-admittedly, there's a little bit of being that just I'm older, you know, like a lot of times like there's
How
not
old are
too
you?
many. I'm about to be 36, so there's not too
Shout
many
out to all the
guys-
36-year-olds out
Yeah.
there.
But there's not a lot
He
of us
just
that
turned
are,
36.
there's not a lot of us that are our age though that are out there in that mix, and you know, like it would have to be the right sort of matchup and situation, you know, like being completely fair, like because I do understand what the game brings. Like
I
do
think I
understand
got a
what's out
perfect
there.
matchup for you.
This dude
I
is.
think you should fight my opponent that I fought in June.
Trust me, I've thought about that many a time.
Shut up! Did you really? MMA? anything.
Either, but the only like that might run into commission issues just because he does have a couple of pro fights and I don't have anything on the amateur side. So
But you don't have to have amateur fights to become a pro.
you don't, but you know how our commissioner is.
Yeah.
Like, not trying to put people's names or anything out
You
there
could
on
you could
blast.
shout him out. He ain't watching.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not throwing out names because in the end, if they do,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to have to answer to someone
No,
else.
for sure.
But there's, yeah, I've thought about it for sure.
Did you?
But in terms of like trying to put together, like the biggest issue is staying healthy. Because I've gotten to a couple of points to where I thought like, okay, I'm in good enough physical condition. I've sharpened the tools enough to be in a spot to where I can go start like a 6 to 8 week camp, something around in those range, and then something breaks.
Yeah.
Or something, something in the mechanism gets
Do
messed
you
up in the
think
process.
that's from age, or do you think that's your recovery? You're not hydrating. What do you think, or do you think it's just fucking the years of fucking
think
that
it's
you're
just
putting in?
all things
Yeah.
combined. I try to do very well from the nutrition, the hydration, all of that sort of stuff. I try to do a lot of those things right, but it's also like when you're training with a stable full of killers,
Yeah.
then and all of them are still a lot younger and more spry in the process. The recovery definitely isn't the same, even when you're trying to do all of the, you're trying to do the tub soaks, you're trying to do the massage sessions, you're trying to keep up on the hydration, the nutrition, all of that. At a certain point, father
There's
time
clinics that
just
help for that.
creeps in. Yeah, exactly. I haven't started banging a needle in my ass or anything yet in the process. That would definitely
You'll
kind
get
of,
there.
you know,
I think we all will get there.
Yeah, and I think that there is such a crazy aversion to like testosterone or hormone replacement therapy. Like the one thing I want to start getting more into, but it's some of it too is like kind of cost and all that, is like peptides.
Yeah.
I would love to do some more of those things, but still at that, like, bro, that's a couple $100 a month.
Oh, bro,
So
$200 or
it's-
$300 a month easy.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But I heard they're fucking.
Oh, I've heard it.
I've
like,
never
like BPC.
done any of that.
I've heard is absolutely.
Yup, that one.
A wonder for things out there.
Even like your joints and shit. I heard that like
Joints,
you feel like
gut health,
feel.
all of those things. I would love that. As I sit here, like I just had my nose cracked last week, but
I seen that shit.
popped it back into place pretty straight.
Dude, so did you just you were sparring with one of, I don't know who it was. I didn't
Devontae Smith,
Was that okay? So
former
he
UFC
just
vet.
yeah. So he just fucking broke your nose or what?
Yeah, we were-
And then I seen a video of you just popping it back in. Like
Yep.
that's all you had to do is just fucking align it or what?
Went to the bathroom and it's been a long time since it's been broken, but I have broken it in the past. From whether it was back in the day with football to I got rammed. I used to be a catcher in baseball. There was a collision at the plate one time and it got broken during one of those. So it's been broken a couple of times, but I've also had. If I wasn't retarded in math, I would have been a sports doctor. Like that's what I originally went to school for back in the day was sports medicine, but it just came to the point of like within the cow lining of school, like the prereqs to get into some of those advanced science classes. I could do the science, no problem. All the chemistries, the physiology, like I could do all of that. That wasn't an issue. It was like the prereqs of certain math classes that they wanted you to be able to have to get into some of those more advanced, like that I couldn't do math. I couldn't do math to that level. Like I could do stats, I could do finance, I could do some of those other things. Could not do some of like the super advanced algebras or whatever, all of those crazy like fucking symbols that like,
Yeah.
I thought this was math, bro. We're supposed to be dealing with numbers. Like I don't know what this little squiggly
This
thing
little
is.
fucking dash
You know,
fucking
like, all of
here
that sort
with
of
the number
shit.
up top.
Yeah, so if I wasn't just a dunce when it comes to math, I'd have been in sports medicine. So, but I've always tried to stay up on some of the knowledge of like, kinesiology, how the human body works, all of that sort of thing, just because some of it, if I know how to kind of correct or work on some of those things myself, it's going to reduce some of the injuries. Or if something does happen and break and I go to the physical therapist, I go to the sports doc, whatever for these things, I try to be just a sponge and soak up all the knowledge of the things that they do, so that if it ever happens again, I can try to self-correct
You
and
don't
do
go and
things
fucking
myself.
spend hundreds of dollars.
Exactly, and some of it came from by way of earlier on in the journey being a lot more of a financial situation of like I don't have money to go to the doctor, or at certain points like I don't have insurance. Like I didn't have insurance for a while, but do now. Covers all that. Much better financial situation now at this point. But there was a time where it was a lot more of a stressful point, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
And so just trying to hedge that a little bit, and then also you being in a fight gym, everybody always has little bumps and bruises.
Dude, nobody's 100%.
Nobody's ever 100%.
Nobody, bro.
Something is
Everybody.
always gonna happen.
Yeah.
I've had to reset multiple people's noses throughout the years in the process. Like, you know, Vince Bryan, one of our younger cats in the gym, former D1 wrestler, all of that, undefeated amateur right now in the welterweight ranks. He cracked his nose probably about 2 months ago, somewhere around in there. Goes to ER. They didn't want to reset it for him. Whatever, spends a couple $100 for the initial thing. You know, I was like, bro, you should have just hit me up right away. Comes over, within 10 minutes, I have his nose pop back into
And
place.
it's just fucking. How bad does that shit hurt, bro?
It doesn't feel great.
Like, is it fucking that bad like that? I've never got my
So
my nose
doing
broken.
it right away, I feel like is the best route to go because the adrenaline is still pumping.
Yeah, and it's still like hot, right?
And like, I mean, the one thing that you kind of want to make sure of right away if you're doing it is that there's not what they call, I believe it's called a septal hematoma, so like a blood sac like on the inside. But you know, if you can kind of stuff up in there and you don't feel like a big like push or a big like little puffy sac of something, that means that there's like blood that's, you know, running down in the mix. If you don't have one of those, then you're usually pretty good just to reset it right then and there. And
What if you do though? Is that like a bad sign or what?
That's
I'm
that's
not
a little bit
fucking
more
doctor.
serious. Yeah, you got to go to like I wouldn't touch it at that point.
Okay.
Like that's beyond my scope of knowledge.
Your
just
expertise.
because if that does pop, then that means that you could have you could have bad infections. You could have blood that's starting to run through your sinuses or any of those things.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of complications that could come from that. That again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all the advanced complications of that. I just know that if that is present, then that's something that's not good. That requires a little bit more of an advanced level of medical practice, if you will,
Yeah.
versus just, you know, the bro science of let's pop that bitch
It's like,
back in.
I watched this fucking YouTube video. I think let's fucking do it like this.
Yeah, and well, and then like I say, being around the fight gym for a lot of time, like, you know, some of these things I learned from Coach Mark too.
Yeah.
You know, like see.
Well, Coach Mark, I remember when Brandon popped his fucking shoulder on fucking, was it the Apex? When he was fighting the Apex, and he just went up to him. He's like, "Cook!" He just fucking popped that bitch back in like on fucking TV, bro.
Yeah, we fought Moreno the first time.
Yo, I was like, dude, that shit was savage. You could just tell Brandon was in pain, bro. I was
He
like,
went full
damn.
Mr. Miyagi on him.
Yo, no, straight up, bro. Look it up.
Because there's a specific way that like you can do it to put it back into place, and that's exactly what he did. You know, like down, twist,
Yeah,
boom, and it goes right back
he
in.
did that shit so quick, bro. Like this dude was, his arm was dangling.
But you know,
and
that's a
then
guy
Mark
who's been
was
doing
just
this
like,
shit since the '90s.
Yeah.
You know, he's been in the mix of fight gyms, and like when Coach Mark started way back when, like that was a whole different world. You know, when he was growing up, there wasn't a thing. MMA wasn't a thing.
was Coach Mark a fighter, bro? I know he fought, right?
Yeah, he
Was
had
he?
like kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, all of that way back then. But you know, like I say, he was more onto the coaching realm by the time that MMA really started to kind of take off.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just, you know, has grown through the years of being one of the best MMA coaches in the world out there. And one of the things that, I mean, we haven't always seen eye to eye on absolutely everything, but there's a respect level, right? Like, and I don't think you're ever going to see 100%.
I was
eye to eye
about to
on
say, I
anybody.
think Coach Mark is just that type of person. At least from when I knew him, he's different, right? Like, you're never gonna be on his good side or his bad side, bro. There's always something, right?
But I always have a heavy love and respect and appreciation for him because he took a chance on me. You know what I mean? Like, especially like when I started coming around and being a media guy in the gym and whatnot, almost 10 years ago in the process, it was a much different climate. Like now everybody has content, guys. Everybody has cameras in the gym. Back then,
Well, especially you guys.
there wasn't a lot though. Like, and there was very few back then. It was seen as almost like a faux pas thing. Like you didn't want camera. You wanted to have this kind of air of mystique, or you wanted to have things that were, in the shadows, if you will. But now everybody sees it more for like the exposure, the content opportunities for all of that. But that wasn't really a thing back then when I started doing it, or that was very few people who were doing that, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So did he not like allow you to fucking record like sparring sessions and shit? Because that was like fucking frowned upon, bro. Like you could not
I never
record
wanted
sparring
to.
sessions. You know what I'm saying?
I never wanted to.
Really?
If that makes, just because.
I mean, it's sparring, right?
It's-
Like,
yeah, or if I was recording, it was solely for like internal use.
Yeah.
Like for guys evaluating what they were doing in rounds
yeah.
and
So
whatnot.
you weren't putting that.
It
out
wasn't
enough.
putting anything along those, and still even to this day, like I'm very selective as far as the shots that I'll put out, like if it's in training sequences or anything like that, just because I know what the risks of the game are in that way, or I respect the game to a level to where if that makes someone look really bad, then yeah, it's
But
probably
I-
not the best thing to put
True,
out.
but I don't think a fucking video. I don't know. My point of view. I don't think you putting out a video of your buddy hitting pads. It's gonna fucking. If he was gonna lose that fight, he was gonna lose that fight, right? At least in my eyes. It's not
some
like your
ways,
video
yes.
fucking showed his opponent. Hey, this
some ways, yes,
motherfucker
but if you-
drops his right hand when he throws a fucking hook.
But you can't.
True.
You can't.
True. There are
And-
guys that do fucking look into the fucking. But I mean, I feel like if
It's
you're gonna
few and-
fucking lose, you're gonna lose. You
It's
know what
few
I'm
and
saying?
far between, but if there is something that I feel like is a tell,
Yeah.
and maybe it's my hyper analytical eye for things. Like I think that's maybe why me and Coach Mark vibe so much, is because we're both analytical.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think of every last little thing. My brain never stops moving in that process, and I pick up on so many of these little details of things that it's like,
So do you watch tape for these guys? Are you kind of like a coach for them in a way?
I don't want to call myself a coach.
No, okay. Well,
But will some guys ask
Do you
me
see
like
what-
what
you-
my I understand what you're saying in that sense, but just for formality's sake, like I don't want to call myself a coach in that sense, but more of like an analyst
Yeah.
or like a reviewer of certain things. Definitely.
Okay.
There's been some guys who have like, hey, like, can you watch this and let me know what you think, or can you see maybe do you see something, whatever. Yeah, absolutely, no problem. Like I have notebooks full of stuff that I've
that
gone
speaks
and like,
high of
studied
you
through.
though, because like if they're coming to you, that's probably a good thing, right?
It-
Like
it
for you
absolutely
to
feels great.
Yeah, you probably feel good fucking for them to come up to you and that's that shit.
Just,
You know?
like I feel like that also comes with a certain level of trust.
For sure,
with
yeah,
a certain level
exactly.
of trust and respect to where like, hey, like I'm going out there and I'm forging into battle here. I'm kind of doing this based off of maybe some of the analysis that you can gain from them. So
Correct.
I don't take that for granted. I try to treat every opportunity like that with such a high level of reverence that I'm going to do my due diligence in the process. But I also think that because, like you mentioned, like, well, if someone's going to lose that fight, maybe yes and no. Because there might be something that you see from them in a training sequence or something that happens in the room that they put out. It's like that's your opportunity right there. Like you're always going to have your moments back and forth in fights on a lot of occasions, especially if you're fairly evenly matched. But there's inches within it's like the any given Sunday speech, right? Like it's a game of inches.
Correct.
And if you can find where that 1 inch is to where you can start to forge forward a little bit, that could be all that you need to blow the thing wide open. And so maybe it's a thing of like, okay, they have a tell of when they go 1-2, their draw, they leave everything low.
I think the perfect example, at least for me, was when my boy Connor knocked out Aldo. Because, you seen the behind the scenes. He fucking was doing, he kind of knew what Aldo was going to do, you know what I'm saying? And then he just knocks him the fuck out.
And I think that was a lot more mental than it was physical. I think that.
You seen the video, right? Like
Yeah.
Connor behind the scenes when he was practicing that fucking
He
shot.
was practicing the sequence, but I
Correct.
also feel like what he did within that was based off of the year of buildup with mental games, because what people forget about is that fight was supposed to happen months before
Correct.
it actually did.
And then the
Aldo
rib
got
injury
hurt,
got beat.
and then that's when he fought Mendez.
Yeah, beat the
Connor
shit
went
outta him.
through the healing process with his knee, so there was a little bit of time in between that. So there was a whole worldwide press tour that was going on. They were doing a lot of face-offs, a lot of media opportunities, and Connor was just shitting on him with every opportunity that he could. So he basically had it to the point to where Aldo was so chomping at the bit, foaming at the mouth, ready to get after him, that he knew that Aldo was going to charge him. Something that Aldo typically doesn't do. He's a lot more measured, a lot more calculated in the process. I think that Connor knew that from the mental warfare side of things, and especially the way that he reacted in their final face-off before fight night, where Aldo was really kind of like clinching his right hand and super like charged up, he knew that he was going to come at him right away from the outset. So all he had to do was step offline, hit the check hook, and boom, it's a wrap.
And it's fucking over.
And he was such a sniper at that point in time.
Hit him with that fucking.
with the follow-up with the super necessary. Yeah. I think
The
that-
Jorge? Super necessary.
Super necessary. That's what I always
my
call it,
dog.
super necessary. But yeah, I think that was a lot more a lot more mental than it was physical.
Yeah.
Because I think if it goes beyond that 13 seconds, or if they don't have that entire year's worth of buildup in the process, I think that the fight potentially plays out differently. Not to say that Connor still doesn't win, but I think that if you remove the mental warfare aspect from that fight and that buildup, that it's a different dynamic.
It wouldn't have been done that quick, you would say.
I don't think it would have been done that quickly.
Do you think Conor would have still took the dub?
It's hard to say, right? Because that was during that reign, that decade of dominance that
Yes,
Jose Aldo had.
Well, that and it was the McGregor fucking era though too. This dude's
He
just
was on the
fucking
rise for sure.
starching
but
motherfuckers, you know?
When you look at it from like styles make fights, right?
Correct.
Jose Aldo had some of the best leg kicks that we've ever seen in MMA. With Conor's bladed stance, with him leaving that lead leg out so much, if they go beyond that, if he stays more tactical, stays more measured, and doesn't approach him forward, keeps his range in the process, and utilizes his kicking game, does him attacking that lead leg of Conor from that bladed stance, does that have an impact on what Conor's able to throw through? Or it would be his.
Yeah, I was about
right
to say because he's southpaw.
Yeah, it would be his.
Yeah,
his
it would
right
be
leg,
the
but his
inside fucking leg kick.
So, but does he? And Aldo could kick either direction.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
look
sure.
at at Uriah Faber's leg from that. WBC
Yeah, he was going
fight.
both.
Like he was going both, inside and outside in the process. Same thing when he fought Mike Brown, a lot of other guys in the process. So maybe if he's a little bit more calculated, it goes differently. But again, it's something that's really hard to say in that process. That I firmly believe that the mental warfare was what really did Aldo in that process, because he was just so charged up. And you gotta also think too, like when you're sitting on the throne for 10 plus years, from the merger from WEC into the UFC, and you've been able to
Beat the fuck
beat
out
the
of
fuck
everybody.
else
Yeah.
in the process. When you've had that level of success with everybody, then you just think like, okay, who's this little shit talking kid? Like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna fuck this dude up. Like, I'm not gonna give him any sort of respect to start getting his spin game on, or I'm not gonna give him that space to start really getting off and finding a rhythm. But same thing, Conor on the other side, that was him when he was at his most calculated time frame in his career to know that, all right, I have done enough work here behind the scenes, mentally, in the press conferences, is red panning, like all those sort of talks, that I'm going to draw out a response, whether it is consciously or subconsciously, that he is going to come right at me. And I'm
that's
going
what
to
he
use
wanted.
his aggression against him.
Do you think most of Conor's wins were kind of based off of that then? Because he was a fucking good shit talker, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that it was a combination of all things. I think that when he's calling Dustin Poirier P-head when they fight the first time, when he's doing some of those things that.
Why do you think it didn't work then after that? Do you think people just kind of caught on like, oh, dude, it's a fucking.
No, I think that Conor lost sight of what the goal was, and the main thing stopped being the main thing.
Well, I mean, when you have $100 million in the bank, bro,
exactly,
it's fucking.
it's hard. It's like the
I ain't
old
getting
fight
up for
saying
shit.
that it's hard to get up. It's hard to get up to go to war when you're sleeping in satin sheets.
No,
100%.
I heard a guy
Fucking,
say
who was it,
the one thing you can't manufacture is hunger, bro.
Yeah.
If you're full, you're full.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why all these guys that are fucking poor, I mean,
Right.
they're coming from poverty and all that shit. That's why they usually make the best athletes, right? Because they're
They
they're
don't
trying to
have
make
shit,
it.
and they're trying to still achieve something.
Correct.
He achieved the apex of all apexes. There's nobody who's made more money in the sport of mixed martial arts than Conor McGregor has.
Yeah.
With him going on, and especially like that was unheard of to go have the Floyd fight. Like he spoke that into existence years before, and it just happened to be that he was such a big draw that they decided, okay, we're going to break the mold. We're going to break our normal operations
Yeah.
to go out and have this super fight, the money fight, where they go and make just fuck you money in the process, where he goes and fights Floyd Mayweather, who was the biggest draw in boxing. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Floyd was the most exciting, but Floyd, arguably one of the greatest boxers
He's
ever.
a GOAT, yeah.
And in terms of being
Yeah,
able to
pump
draw and to make money, Floyd is absolutely one of the best, and especially was himself able to break the mold of traditional boxing and then going on and becoming his own promoter in the process and having these mega shows where they're drawing, hundreds of millions of dollars per show in the process. That just happened to be the perfect storm of Floyd at that point in his career, where he was starting to look for some of those fun fights or some of those
because he's getting
bigger
older.
He was getting older. He
Yeah.
was up there. But looking for attraction style fights, as opposed to, well, he's now no longer like taking everybody in, like the top of ranks, or you could say that he handpicked match, whatever. But he was no longer in the mix of needing to fight your Zab Judas, your Marcos Maidanas, your all of those guys through all of
the real fucking boxers.
the real matches in that. Like he was kind of the first to pioneer, if you will, some of the. It wasn't like straight up influencer boxing, but that sort of like
It was
crossover.
kind of started that fucking
I
circus
think
shit.
that's
if you
what
think
that's
about
what
it.
that's what started the whole Tyson versus Paul.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
that's
what I think
circus
that.
fucking
Yeah, I think
kind of
that's
started,
where that
like, I think
sprouted
an
off of.
inspiration of that because,
Yeah.
but I don't think that it was the fight itself that created that
It
sort
was,
of
I
attraction
think
thing.
it was like the cross
It
promotions
was
and
the
all that
fact
shit.
that they made so much money doing so.
Well, I
That they
think-
drew in so
Yeah.
many eyes.
I think
money
they
talks.
realized that people will watch.
Right.
Is what came out of that. Because I mean,
Well, 'cause
nobody
of social media.
nobody
though,
ever
too,
thought
you know?
Connor was going to knock out Mayweather. I mean, let's be realistic. But
Yeah.
There was a lot of MMA, or there was a lot of people who Connor stands who think that he was going to. There was a lot of Connor people who thought that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that dude had such a still probably has such a big, fan base, but a real fucking fighter, or even if you trained a little bit, I mean, I'm pretty sure you knew it. Like, I think you knew Connor wasn't gonna
well,
win
when,
that fucking fight.
that was at
You
least.
know?
And I'm not a fighter, but I'm like, dude, if high level boxers have a hard time hitting him, McGregor's not going to hit him.
Yeah.
I think everybody also held out the thought that power trumps all. That, if Connor were to potentially find a left hand, that could be an opening or an opportunity. Because if you looked at Floyd Mayweather's history, and again, like, it's so crazy when you could look at somebody's entire body of work and you could only point to maybe like 2 sequences where they got hurt. One of them being a left hand that happened against Zab Judah. I think it was
Yep.
also a left hand in the Maidana.
Maidana was the other
a,
one
a
that-
right hand.
Was
It
it- was
an
it right hand? Okay.
overhand.
I couldn't remember which hand it was. But,
Yeah.
being that Zab had the left hand success against him, like, hey, there's maybe the thought that, well, what if the luck of the Irish strikes? It's the allure of the puncher's chance. And that was kind of like, I mean, why is Rocky such a fucking amazing movie series, or such something that took hold? It's because everybody loves that underdog story. And when you had somebody back then, the Conor McGregor, the Mystic Mac, the person who could just light up the microphone and tear into anybody at that point in time, he painted such a pretty picture that it made people believe. It made people think that, oh man, this dude has a chance, because he was so convincing on a microphone that he made people buy into the thought that he might actually be able to pull this crazy shit off. Nobody thought that this fight was even going to happen,
That's true.
months before that it did. And then he is so powerful in what he says that he broke the mold of an entire 2 separate industries to go and let the biggest boxer in the world at that time go on and have this super fight with an MMA fighter who doesn't have any notable professional boxing bouts up to that point. The fact that he was able to speak all of that into existence gave people this impression that he has the power to do some of the unthinkable things. Like, he's sitting up there saying, like, I speak with the gods are at my table, like saying all these things in
fucking
press
crazy
conferences,
shit.
saying crazy shit, but he was able to speak so much actual things into existence that he gave people the power of belief. He sold such a picture that people thought that, oh man, he actually has a chance. That all to be said, then when he goes out there, and it's a successful show, but I think what really birthed that
Money-wise,
whole
it's a successful show.
yeah, money-wise, it was a successful show. And, people could say whatever, did Floyd carry him, though, a few rounds to let it be able
Did
to
he?
draw?
Did he carry him? I would say so, right?
I mean, you could say so.
But Mayweather's also not the type to be knocking motherfuckers out, So
Later on in his career.
yeah,
But because
well, when he
if
was
you're-
Pretty Boy, he was knocking
when he was-
motherfuckers
when he
out.
was Pretty Boy,
and
he
then it was
was.
because the hands, right? He
Right.
kept breaking his hands. Yeah.
And that's what I think is so special about Floyd, though, is how many guys can you ever see, like, halfway through your career, basically, like, all right, I've got to switch the script up. Like, I've got to change my entire style, the entire way that I fought, because I'm having these injuries with my hands, because I'm breaking my hands, knocking guys out. Well, now I got to become the best defensive fighter that boxing has ever seen.
Well,
And
like,
you
even his
don't
persona,
skip a
right?
beat. You
Yeah.
don't miss in the process. You never have an off night. You never lose. You never have that one night where you just didn't have it, and maybe you got taken to a decision and you lost on the cards. You never have one of those nights where you were just off. You get all the way to that point to where you finish undefeated in the process, and you had to completely, again, shift from being a knockout artist to being somebody who is a lot more defensively sound. You're working evasive tactics. You're becoming more of a counterpuncher. You're able to slip their power shots and be able to just boom, 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 score in the process, get out without taking anything hard. How many people have we ever seen be able to have that sort of shift and evolution while on the biggest of biggest stages and not skip a beat?
Never. And I also, it seems like he did that too by also not giving a fuck if it was going to the decision.
Right.
Because I mean, fighters have an ego, bro. Like goal is to go in there and knock the motherfucker out. You don't never go into a fight and say, "Hey, I'm gonna win on points." He didn't give a shit.
He
Oh,
understood money in that
he understood
sense.
winning a fight.
Yeah, he was like, "I'm winning this fight,
and the fight was.
and I know I'm not gonna knock him
And he
out."
was gonna win his fight, not the fight.
Yeah, I mean,
It was a defensive battle. I'm gonna punch you, and you're not gonna punch me.
the goal is always to stop the fucking opponent.
Every
right?
one of his fights was an Olympic match.
Right. And when he became Money Mayweather, it became more of he embraced the role of being the heel. Like
Yeah.
I'm a massive pro wrestling fan, so like I'll speak sometimes in pro wrestling terms that people don't understand.
I
But
seen
so,
you were
like,
you just went to the fucking show
dude,
here, right?
I went to WrestleMania. I went
Yeah,
to
you
SmackDown,
like
I
seeing
went to
that
a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. I love it.
It was dope when you to touch on that. That was super dope, bro. Because I seen when you posted it that correct me if I'm fucking wrong here. That you posted a picture of you and your dad, and you said my dad was able to take me to my first show or some shit like that, and then you're like, now I have the pleasure of taking him now. I thought that was super fucking dope of you, dog.
Yeah,
no
I
lie.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Was that the show here in Colorado?
Yeah,
Or
that
where
was
it?
SmackDown that was here
Okay.
in Denver in November. Yeah, so very way back in the day. This was like mid 90s, probably like 95, 96, somewhere in there.
You're fucking 5 years old,
Yeah,
dude.
5, 6 years old. We go to a show that was it was an indie show called Bad Boys of Wrestling. It was at the Colorado State Fair at the Grandstand. So it was an outdoor show. It's where they have like all the rodeos and
Yeah.
like the horse shows, all that sort of shit. But on that card, though, crazy enough, there was a lot of the like yesteryear, like the late 80s, like early 90s big name stars that were on this little indie circuit show.
Who were they? I didn't watch wrestling back then.
Jake the Snake Roberts,
Okay.
King Kong Bundy,
Yes,
the Bushwhackers,
The Bushwhackers.
Doink the Clown. There was a few other, I believe,
Those all the old school ones.
I think Honky Tonk Man was there too. Like there was a few like big names from those early like golden era years of.
So you were a fan at this when you were 5, 6 years old. You were all
Dude,
into the
from,
fucking.
like from the time when I was even younger was what because my dad
Okay.
liked wrestling. Like
Okay,
there's
gotcha.
pictures that my mom has of me when I'm like knee high to a grasshopper, like still in diapers, putting on like a bandana, acting like I'm Hulk Hogan and shit. Or
Yeah.
like me and my brother like being Macho Man and Hulk or Ultimate Warrior. Like I'm
Yep.
3 years old and I have a picture with like gloves on that have like the little tassel
Yep.
things like Warrior had, but he had the tassels on his arms, but with face paint that was all kind of
Yeah.
crazy smeared, acting like I was Ultimate Warrior. So I've been a lifelong
Oh,
pro
okay.
wrestling fan. And,
So he takes you to this show.
so he
then.
takes me to this show, and that was just like, oh man, like this is so cool, sort of thing. And then it all comes full circle, like everybody does through a lot of your years growing up. Like you kind of fade from being a fan of wrestling, whatever. But then in the last few years, I've just kind of really I would keep tabs on some like the bigger shows, if you would, like WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, whatever. But wasn't really as like invested back into it through a lot of the time. But a few years ago, my brother died, unfortunately, and more so like starting to watch wrestling again, like more back into my 30s, and in some of those years.
What,
it was
but
like,
what made you watch wrestling again? Were you just kind of like, you were fucking
Some of
bored,
it
or
was-
something triggered it? What
some
was
of
it?
it was storylines, like Cody Rhodes coming back into the mix with WWE. I think was kind of a big deal of like reinvigorating like my passion or my fandom from it, because I grew up watching like the tail end of Dusty Rhodes, and then his brother Dustin was Goldust through a lot of the years, or he was. The
I did not
original
know that
American
shit.
Yeah, that's where like the whole Goldust Stardust thing came along
Yeah.
when Cody was first earlier in the WWE. But there was just some of those elements, then that was when Roman Reigns was kind of at the top of the world.
Yeah.
Like I had known who Roman was from when he played at Georgia Tech, when he played along
Yes.
with guys like Calvin Johnson or some of those guys back in yesteryear. So like, oh cool, like I kind of know who some of these are. And then just watching a little bit of that angle when Cody came back into the mix, it was like, man, like this shit is dope again. Like I'm back, like kind of watching it, and was more so watching more of bigger shows. But then once it went back to Raw, and it stopped being such a PG thing, and they were starting to open it up a little bit more, it was like, man, like this is exactly like what I loved about the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, like all the shit that I grew up on. And then just more and more over the last couple of years have became like back more immersed into the WWE universe. And also when I started watching it was just kind of a weird thing, because growing up we watched wrestling all the time, like whether it was the Monday Night Wars in the 90s with Raw and Nitro, to Thunder, SmackDown, WCW Saturday Night, Sunday Night Heat.
WCW was the shit, bro.
Bro, in those couple of years
Like,
in the
that
90s,
was the
those
shit right
83
there.
weeks where they were the top dog, that was the best. Like
Who was your guy back in the day, bro? WCW.
WCW era, man. I just in general, I loved NWO.
Okay.
Like
Just
the NWO, like
the three guys.
That, and then some of the extended branches of it.
Yeah.
Like I loved Big Papa Pump, like Scott Steiner. I loved Scott Steiner. I've always.
I think
I've
he's
had
still wrestling, dog.
His nephew is actually, so Scott's kind of out of the mix, but his nephew is Braun Breaker, Rick's son, who Braun Breaker is about to go up against CM Punk. Depending on when this comes out, he's going up against CM Punk on Monday Night Raw, January 5th, for the WWE Heavyweight Championship.
Bro, real quick, the big pop, Scott Steiner, that dude was bodied the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
So I would watch this shit, and I'm like, I want to look like that, not knowing these guys are fucking juiced to the fucking gills, bro. And I'm like, how do they look like that, bro? Like, how come I don't look like that? I'm this fucking little
I
kid,
still
right?
have some of those old promo lines from Big Papa Pump, like memorized, like, ain't nothing finer than doing the 69er with Scott Steiner. Big Papa Pump is your hookup, holler if you hear me. All those sort of things, like Freaks and Peaks. Oh yeah, like Scott Steiner, that was one of my, like, I just love Scott Steiner because he was a badass.
Yeah.
He would come in and he would.
Did you like his little fucking chain, little
It was just,
fucking?
he'd come in,
That
talk
was dope,
crazy
right?
shit on the mic. Like he was one of those first guys who he gave no fucks. He would just go in and rip on anybody, calling people fat ass or saying all sorts of shit.
He couldn't get away with that shit now, though.
I feel like now it's coming back a little bit.
Probably can get back to a little bit more of it now, but back then, especially, like, it was live. Like WCW was live, so even if they told him don't go out there and say
It's
this,
getting out there no matter what.
he was still going out there and saying it. There was a couple of those old promos that, like, he wasn't supposed to say those things, or nobody knew that he was going to go out there and start shooting on Ric Flair, calling him an old son of a bitch, or all this sort of stuff. Like, nobody knew that he was going to go out there and say this. Nobody knew that he was going to go out there and start shooting on DDP's wife or any of these sort of things.
For sure.
But that's just kind of why, I don't know, like, Scott Steiner was one of those dudes who was just, he
that
was
was
a
your
real
guy?
life sort of badass, and he was a legit wrestler, though, like, way back in the day at University of Michigan. Both him and his brother were. So, like, some of the things that he was able to do athletically early on was just crazy. He was Suplex City before Suplex City came around with Brock Lesnar.
For sure.
And then guys like Brock
I was a
were
fan
insane.
of Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah,
Oh, I love
Guerrero.
The Three Amigos.
My shit was Rey Mysterio, bro.
Rey Mysterio.
Love
To
Mysterio.
this day, bro. I'm
this
like, that's
day,
my
Halloween
guy.
Havoc '97, the Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio Jr. match, one of the most entertaining matches from the Luchadors that you could ever see back then, or from like what they called the cruiserweight class in WCW. Then Eddie went on to, Eddie blew up, got a little saucy, and became a heavyweight champion. But still, some of the promos that Eddie would cut, like, bro, when Eddie was talking
Got
about,
a little saucy.
let's call it for what it is. How do you gain like 60 pounds of mass and not
just
gain any sort of body fat?
straight muscle, bro.
Oh, straight leaded fuel running through the veins. But when he's going up against Brock Lesnar to win the WWE title back then, when he does I'm an addict, bro. Like, the difference between me and you is I will do anything and I will take out anybody in the process to get my high. Like, dude, if you listen to that, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that promo because I can hear it in my head.
This guy likes wrestling.
See, I watched wrestling for a few years, and it was during that time when he won the title from Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
That was my peak of
Yeah, I think around
wrestling.
that era is around where I almost kind of stopped watching it too,
And that was kind of where I'd stop. But again, like, circling it back to what your original question was, like, getting back into it, some of it is honestly, like, in a way, those couple of hours that I get to spend watching wrestling a week, it's like getting to spend a couple of hours with my brother again, if that makes sense.
Super fucking dope, dog.
Because
Super
like I said,
dope.
we used to watch it all the time growing up, whether it was at home or at my grandparents' house, not abiding by the do not try this at home warning, like, hitting everybody's finishers or their signature moves on each other, like pulling the couple little cushions off.
I was
the
about
couch.
to say off the fucking couches.
Yep. Like, hitting him with power bombs because my brother was way smaller. Like, I was always way bigger than my brother.
Was he younger or older than you?
Younger. He was 2.5 years younger.
Okay.
And so, he was down with, like, taking finishers. He was down with, in wrestling, taking bumps. Like, he was down with all that shit. Like, okay, you want to see if you can hit the last ride? The Undertaker's, like, super power bomb. boom, okay, power bomb, lift up, and then slam.
Hey, you guys not thinking that you guys could potentially get fucking paralyzed doing one of these fucked up moves?
Oh, he got his head stuck in the couch one time, like in the wedge of things, and like I was like,
He's
oh no,
fucking
like I'm thinking
slammed.
like I just fucked my brother up, and he's just like, oh no, I'm fine, but my head's just stuck. It's like little shit like that. But then he could do some of like the cruiserweight sort of things,
Yeah.
like, you know, some of the like the Mysterio type of shit. Like, all right, well, I'm gonna hop up and then let me hit you with this.
He's doing the
Hurricane
frog
Rana,
splash.
Yo,
all
hell
those
yeah.
things, like jumping from the top of the couch, like all the way over off. You know, let me hit you with this 5-star frog splash. Let me do
Yeah.
like. So we had a different mix of being able to do stuff back and forth. You know, just 2 body types, 2 styles, all of that. And man, like, I just sometimes I sit there and. Because there's still some of those guys from that era that are around and in the mix, and just thinking back, like, dude, this was so crazy. Like, you know, it brings a little tear to my eyes at times. Like, when Cena just retired, like some of that was like, dude, like I remember sitting at my grandparents' house when John Cena was first coming on the scene, and we were watching him way back in the day.
Yeah, he wasn't even the Cena, the whole fucking rapping Cena, bro. He was just a fucking dude
This
in
was
his
when
little
he was
chones
still,
and
like,
shit.
you know, just past being the prototype.
Yeah,
Like
yup.
when he was just a crazy freak of nature.
Yeah.
You know, physically and all of that. But
Just
that was
shredded ass dude in fucking underwear.
pre-Dr. Thugonomics.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
yeah,
that was
that's
pre
exactly.
that era. And yeah, like just circling back to some of those things, like it's a lot of nostalgia that comes in the mix. But yeah, it's to run it all in short, me being such a fan of wrestling or watching it more so, like it makes me feel like I get to spend some time with him every week.
Hell yeah. So what made you take your dad then? Also, was it did you feel like you owed him from the fucking 1996 when you took you?
My dad never gets out much. Like he lives down in Pueblo still. Like he never really leaves town much for much of anything. Like he'll
Was
maybe
he retired?
He retired a couple of years ago, yeah.
Okay.
But
so he
still,
just chills all fucking day then.
yeah, still very active. You know, he lifts all the time, still strong as shit. Goes fishing and does his thing down there. Or
Yeah.
like him and my mom will go camping, do whatever.
The Pueblo shit, bro.
But-
Everybody in Pueblo does that.
Yeah, but he, as far as like, you know, he'll maybe every now and then, like if my mom like is like, hey, like I want to go to the Nuggets, because my mom's a big sports fan too. But if she's like, all right, well, I'm going to the Nuggets on this game, blah blah blah. Are you coming or not? Then he'll go. But outside of that, like him leaving on his own, or if it's not for something that he absolutely wants, it doesn't happen very much. So then it just finally came a thing of, in like September-ish, somewhere around in there, when they made the future show dates announcements, that's when they said that SmackDown was coming to Denver. His birthday's in September, so I got him tickets for his birthday. Like, hey, like, I'm buying tickets for SmackDown, like, November 21st, we're going. And so like, all right, I'll go. And dude, he showed up. He came and hung out at my apartment for a little while.
Hell
We took the
yeah.
light rail, and like that was a whole different experience for him. And dude, like you want to talk about a person who does people watching, or like my dad is like Coach Mark, but on level 10 all the time. Like when
Yeah.
Coach Mark is tuned
just
up.
fucking like a hawk.
Yeah,
Just,
and like
yo.
shit talking motherfucker cutting promos on people out in public, like that whole sort of thing. Like that gives zero fucks. Like does not care. Like he'll say some shit that might piss you off. I'm like, what the fuck are you gonna do about it? Like that whole sort of thought process. And yeah,
No filter.
Zero. Like if it enters up here, it's coming out here.
Yeah,
Like,
he doesn't
there
hold back.
Does not hold anything back. And yeah, so I get to take him to watch wrestling. You know, we go have food at Brooklyn's before, right across from Ball Arena. Then afterwards, like he's walking around, he's seeing all the people carrying belts. He's like, a lot of people carrying. I was like, Dad, yeah, do you know how much those things cost? It's like, because all those the real replica belts,
replica,
like
yeah.
they're 600 to like 1100
Yeah.
plus a pop. It's like, how do you not walk around? And this is, you know, maybe because we come from Pueblo or whatever, some of our like different, like, how are you not like thinking that you're about to get robbed or you're about to get jacked for this shit? Like, you know, what if someone comes up like, hey, motherfucker, give me that shit?
Give me that fucking WWE belt.
Yeah.
I'm the champ now.
Yeah, like some people are walking around with 2-3 and was like, there's no fucking way I'm walking around with that sort of shit.
That's not Pueblo fucking lifestyle,
Yeah,
bud.
yeah. I'm just thinking wild along the like, no, like I'm not walking around with a chance give somebody a reason. Like, there's enough of a chance that you might get jacked in the first place,
Yeah.
much less giving somebody a reason to it. But yeah, just the whole experience of, you know, getting to take him to that and letting it all come full circle. Like I say, 20, maybe even like close to like 30 years before, you know, like took me to my first show. And then I've gone to a lot more through the years, whether it's going out and seeing WrestleMania to a couple of other promotions out there. Saw AEW when they were in town. Yeah, it was just one of those moments of, I'm going to take you to see this. You know,
It's like an
seeing his
accomplishment.
farewell
That's a
tour,
nice
all that.
full circle moment
That
there.
is a fucking,
Yeah.
that is super fucking legit. For sure.
And dude, it was some of the best too back then because I don't know if you remember like the time slot on wrestling. There used to be movies for guys who like movies that would come on after wrestling.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, a lot of dads do. They fall asleep in the recliner. You know, like, so he would fall asleep a lot of times during that last hour of wrestling, and then it would just like parlay itself into the movies. My mom used to work graveyards when we were kids, so then it would be like Roadhouse, the Stallone movies,
Yo.
Showgirls, whatever, all of these shows, and he was always cool with like, you know, he's a bro dad. Like,
Yeah.
he's still a bro to this day. Like in its own sense, like he's very much like just a dude's dude
Just,
in a lot of that
just
way.
a homeboy.
And so like he was cool with us watching, you know, all those movies, whatever. But where he finally kind of busted my balls a little bit was, dude, Roadhouse. The original Roadhouse is one of my favorite movies of all time, still to this day. I quoted Roadhouse when we were like in the middle of the store or something. I was like 6 years old, and my mom just looks at me like, "Where did you hear that?" Like, Roadhouse, Mama. Like, where'd you watch Roadhouse? Like after wrestling, then. So obviously, my mom goes and gives him the business about letting us watch shows like Roadhouse and all of that. And then he afterwards like, "Hey, I don't give a shit if you watch the movies. Just don't fucking get me in trouble for it."
Yeah, so don't throw me under the bus.
Don't fucking,
It's like, just don't get me in fucking
don't
trouble.
give me in trouble with your mom, dude. What the fuck you thinking?
Exactly. So
Hell yeah.
that was you know, those crazy memories or fun times from, you know, the 90s and back around in that time that, yeah, it was just kind of a, you know, paying homage to thank you for introducing me to this world sort of thing.
Fuck yeah, dude.
That's super cool.
That is super dope. One thing I wanted to touch on, one last thing I wanted to touch on. I seen, I look through people's social media a lot, bro. Just because I'm fucking, especially if I'm gonna bring you on. And something I kind of enjoyed fucking seeing, bro, because I'm kind of in the same era. Like we're practically the same age, right? And I seen you posted a picture the other day. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. And it was like, if I could do it, you can too.
Yeah.
And it was, did you start your fitness journey in fucking 2018 or what the fuck is that about? Like, what made you get into it? Like, were you a fucking drunk before or what? Like,
So, you know, I grew up playing sports and was an athlete my whole life, right? But I played at a much heavier weight than what I do now.
Yeah.
But it was a lot more, you know, I lifted like crazy. My dad's a strength and conditioning guy. I was in the weight room all the time with football and with baseball. Played at baseball at 215, football at 220. So now I walk around at 165. So it's a big difference as far as that goes. But I let the number on the scale kind of play tricks with me through a lot of years. You know, like once I stopped playing ball and then, you know, was going through college and like the earlier years of my 20s, I started just seeing, you know, like, oh yeah, like I'm only a few pounds off my playing weight, you know, 225, 227, whatever. in
holy
there.
shit.
But it was like through time, it was converting from like lean muscle mass to being like fat,
a little
floppy
soft.
Yeah, exactly, very soft. But it was from partying. It was from eating shit food. It was from being out late and, you know, like, okay, well, up in Fort Fun, baby, Colorado State, Fort Collins, there was a lot of great times up there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was always a thing of, all right, well, after you hit the bars in Old Town, there was the Euro stand on the way home. Or if the Euro stand was too packed and you didn't want to hit the Euro stand, there was the tacos, there was the pizza at, you know, a couple of at Tony's right outside the little pizza pickup window. Pizza Casbah sometimes was out there. It was just, it was a whole different lifestyle in that sense. And get through, you know, started to get back into a little bit more of a health conscious point in my mid-20s. And then everybody at some point has that crazy toxic relationship, right? That like throws you off of everything in your world. That kind of derailed everything. Was working a job in corporate America that I was working corporate sales. It was a good job, don't get me wrong, like, you know, good benefits, good, you know, good
pay,
money, all that sort of thing. But I just fucking hated my life, bro. I hated everything that I was going to work every single day for this place.
It was just, you have no kids, right? Or anything
No,
like
no
so
kids.
you just, all you did, your life evolved around fucking work.
Yeah,
right?
was
That was
work,
it.
you know, was that sort of like shit relationship dynamic, whatever at that point. And yeah, then once that kind of fell apart, then, you know, sometimes you go through like that extra like partying, the depression, all of that. And there was times where, yeah, I was drinking a lot, you know, but, and then also not eating well, wasn't really incentivized to do a whole lot of, you know, self-discipline, I guess, at that point in time. But then it kind of came to a head in like 2017-ish, around in there, started having like a ton of anxiety and a ton of like, sort of like panic attacks, if you will, like when I would be at work or like the next day after going out and partying and drinking and whatnot.
Dude, well, obviously it was probably because of the fucking alcohol, right? I mean, because alcohol does give you like that fucking anxiety.
It was probably a big part of that, but also coupled with just like the unaddressed, like, well, you hate what you're doing every day sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then not also doing anything to really kind of exercise out all the toxins that were in the body. You're not eating well, you know, like, all right, well, we just went and got fucked up and partied all night. Well, let's hit the breakfast burrito spot the next morning or whatever the next day. So it's not good fuel that's going back in the process. And then, you know, so I started like, okay, well, I need to start curbing this and like starting to cut alcohol out back then at that point. And then early 2018, that's when my brother died. And so, and there was alcohol related as far as with his death. And so then it was just kind of a shift of like, man, like I don't get the enjoyment out of this anymore. And so then
You were just drinking to drink at that point then, right? It wasn't, because I mean, I think it comes a point, right, where you're drinking and it's fun, and then it's like you're drinking to almost mask.
yeah,
some
that's
pain.
a lot of what it was.
You know
a lot
what
of
I'm
ways,
saying?
you know, like drinking to escape. Like
Yeah.
drinking to, you know, and people can call it, like, I don't consider myself or that I was an alcoholic in the sense of like, oh no, like how some people like, oh, I'm like,
Fucking
I
they
just
need 3
I
shots
just
in the morning.
need to get through the day in that sense. But I was more so like, I was a binge alcoholic in that sense of like, I never really drank just to enjoy like the taste, or like something like, oh, like
Yeah.
I want to taste all the floral and the hoppy notes of this beer and all this. And, like, it was never that. Like, bro, I was drinking to get fucked up. Like, let's
Well,
party.
binge
Let's have a good
drinking
time.
is considered fucking
It's a form of alcoholism.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess he wasn't alcohol dependent. He was just
Yeah, it wasn't
Yes.
alcohol.
it was just a
dependent in that
vehicle
sense.
to escape whatever was going on.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
that's what I got told around that same time too. There, because I never really drank, but then I would drink and I would go 3 days, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't remember who told me. They're like, well, that's a form of fucking you being an alcoholic. Just because you didn't drink for 6 months, and then the day that you do drink, you go for fucking 3 days. And I was like, the
It was like,
fuck?
once the booze crew sets sail, we're off to sea.
Yeah.
That was, you know, that's kind of what it was.
Yo.
You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't drinking for the taste or for, you know, like the enjoyment of the aromas that this whiskey
Yeah,
or whatever was
or
putting
the
on.
fucking taste
nah,
of
dog,
this
I'm drinking to
beer.
get fucked up. Let's party. Let's have a good time.
yeah.
Like, let's
Chasing
get
the
after it.
buzz.
Exactly, like chasing it. And then sometimes, you know, go too far. But
Most of the time, probably, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Because you're chasing that buzz, like you said, like because you reach that nice little buzz where you feel
But
confident,
you also gain
but then
a
you
certain
want to
level
keep.
of tolerance that it's like, all right, well, you know, like not really getting too bad. But were there points where it's like, fuck, how'd I get home?
Yeah.
Like all those sorts of moments are like, oh shit, yeah, well, car's in the driveway, like cool, we're good. Like,
Yeah,
there's
I didn't get a
damage,
DUI.
no
I
whatever.
didn't fucking do anything. Fuck,
There
I'm home.
were too many of those moments, and you know, like was able to skirt a lot of those risks, I guess, in that sense. And then really one of the biggest influencing factors in changing was once I started being down at Factory X and being around a lot of people with a lot more goals. Like I guess in working that old job or being in that corporate lifestyle, it was a lot of other people who were in the same boat as me. Like we're a slave to the machine because of the lifestyle that it was able to afford you. You know, you were able to live very comfortably. You were able to have some nice things because of what the salary, the benefits, all that was providing for you, but you didn't have the fulfillment from life, I guess. So there was a lot of people that it was also a toxic culture in that sense, if you will. But then being around a lot of people, but there wasn't necessarily all like the goal setting or like the very like, you know, I want to go do more, be more, achieve more sort of mindset. And then once I started being around Factory X and being in the gym, it was a lot of that sort of mindset, and a lot of people who are like, man, like I don't have shit, but I'm trying to get shit.
Yeah.
And then curbing some of that out and cutting things off, just to kind of tie it up in that sense. Yusuf was such a big influence for me. Yusuf also being a guy who he had a similar sort of situation. That's kind of how we became such good friends right away. It was almost like a trauma bond.
Yeah.
Right after
Was
my
he
brother died.
drinking heavy like that?
No, Yusuf has never drank alcohol in his
Yeah, I
life.
was about to say. I've known Yusuf since he was 16, bro.
His
Had
brother
ATT.
passed away
Okay, so that's where you
And
guys
so
really.
that's part of why Yusuf has never been a part, and his brother also had an alcohol-related death in the process. So
Gotcha.
right after mine died, he was the first person that I had met with back in the gym or had spoken to at that time. And he was only like a 2-0, 3-0 pro, something like that. He was like 20 years old, and he was just like, oh yeah, well this is what happened to me too. And like from there, like he's just been one of my best friends, one of my my rocks, my corners, my if I were to ever get married, that dude's 100% one of the people who's right there standing with me. And one of the some
Good
of the
fucking
hardest,
dude too.
exactly, just someone who through almost now 10 years has been there for every turn of my life, the highs, the lows, the whatever. When I've competed, well, he's been in my corner before, all those sorts of things. Like that is somebody who like I would run through a fucking wall for Yusuf type of guy. And then I remember we talked about it just the other night actually, that when I really started to turn the curve on becoming more healthy or
Your
practicing
fitness
those things.
journey, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. Was we were sitting in his hotel room before he was about to fight on an LFA card in Vail, and I was just like, yeah, bro, I don't really like to run. Like, I'll do circuits or like I'll hit the bag, do whatever. He's like, he just looks me dead in the eye, goes, motherfucker, you think we like to run?
Nobody likes to run.
And so it's like, all right, well, fair enough. And he gave me like a little intro to running sort of regiment and routine, and I started doing that, and that kind of started the ball there. That was, then you have your ups and downs. Sometimes you fall off the path a little bit for a while, whatever life shit happens, your dog dies, get super depressed, you go through a bad seafood sort of diet where seafood, eat food, doesn't matter what it is. And yeah, there was a couple of those turns, but always having somebody who was such a model of consistency, somebody who has always been, and whether it was Yusuf or another guy who's really important to me is Brandon Royval.
Yeah.
Those guys who have always been so goal oriented, or no matter what life issues present to you, you still have to figure out a way to correct the course. It's okay. Sometimes you're going to fall off the path and bad shit's going to happen. But can you figure out a way to course correct? And sometimes you got to rely on those pillars. You got to rely on some of those people out there to help you pull yourself out of the dark place. But you've also got to be willing to be receptive to when you're fucking up, and your boy who you trust with your life in a lot of senses comes and says like, hey bro, like something's off. Like what's going on?
Get it together, motherfucker.
And then, so you got to be open to receiving that feedback too. And, those guys have been such a big influence, Jacoby Jones being another one. All of those guys have helped me stay to being in such a good position, and naturally Coach Mark in the process.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's also some of those things that, well, like I don't want to bring that shit. Like Coach Mark has enough shit to deal with. Or he has enough like large macro level things.
Fucking 200 fucking fighters he has to look over.
He has to deal with the fighters, with the business, with his own family, with his own issues. I mean, him being a guy who's overcame cancer, had an organ removed, and is still going out there and is putting in work every single day in the process, and is still just a savage. So seeing guys like that has helped me kind of maintain a level of consistency. Has been able to allow me to become what I like to call a disciple of discipline. So it's all right, well, are you doing all the right things to want to be in the position that you're in? Like success isn't owned, it's rented, and you got to pay that rent every single day. Are you doing those little daily things to make sure that you put yourself in a position to try to earn that spot at the table? Because again, success is never guaranteed. Winning in life is never guaranteed. All you can hope to do is that you do enough preparation so that when the moment of opportunity comes, you're able to capitalize when that window presents itself. And if you're able to take care of yourself from a physical standpoint, then the physical will help funnel the mental. And when you're doing well physically, mentally, it helps allow you to be a little bit more pure spiritually. And so then if you're operating on those three pillars of your actual life and they're kind of rolling in motion, well then those reps while you're in a good space, that starts to breed confidence. Yeah. And if you have enough reps in the process to where you're starting to build confidence, then you no longer have to worry of like, oh, well, I just need to be motivated. No, like discipline will trump motivation.
100%.
Motivation is fleeting. So if you're able to be disciplined to still operate on all of those things, well, you know what? You might have a little bit of a setback, but it's all right, that shit happens. Oh, you get your nose cracked? Cool. There's plenty of shit that you could still do. You have a little injury here or a life setback somewhere here. All right. That's fine. Like shit's gonna happen, but what can we do to hedge that? What can we do to get ourselves back in a position so that when the next thing comes along, we're able to capitalize on it? And if you sit there and if you wallow on the bad shit, or you sit there in your own pit of despair, which we all do from time to time, like it's gonna happen. It's a natural part of the human psyche. But you can't stay in that dark space for too long. So if you're able to though still stay on some of those pillars of consistency of making sure that you're taking care of your body, making sure that you're not in such a negative space or consuming so many negative things. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever read the TB12 method itself, Tom Brady's book.
No.
But a lot of that, like I took away, one of the big things that I took from it was what he talked about consuming as far as inflammatory sources, or like reducing inflammation in your life. And a lot of people think of that as just like what you're consuming, like, you know, sugars, bad foods,
eating.
processed things, all
Yeah.
of that. But he also talked a lot about, you know, we're in such a world now where there's so much content, or, you know, video games, whatever out there, that those are also inflammatory sources. You know, you're consuming too much of just the bad news headlines. You know, there's crazy stuff going on in the world right now, like literally as we speak, that have just happened over the last couple of days. But if you get too consumed by some of that, that's a crazy source of inflammation that can happen in your life, that it might throw you off and put you into a bad space. So if you can figure out a way to reduce the clutter and reduce the inflammation in all aspects, maybe sometimes it's also the inflammation is coming from toxic relationships, whether it is a partner that you're with, or whether it's allowing too much of a family member. Sometimes it's your parents in the case. You know, not to say that that's all everybody's, but it could be. You know what I mean? Or someone who's just a doubter or whatever. If you're allowing for that to have too much space in your mind, that's producing inflammation that could take you off of your game, or could prevent you from being able to have a level of self-actualization. Like if you're talking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like self-actualization is the top of that pyramid, right? Once we've achieved our base level things of needs and, you know, structures within our life, the last part of it is believing in who you are, is believing that you have the tools, you have the reps, you have what it takes to go out there and do what you're trying to achieve. So that's kind of, I guess, wrapping that up on it. You got to be able to have purity in mind, body, and soul to go out there and be your best person.
Yeah. So that's how you started your fitness journey, huh?
That's kind of how it started, bro.
Well, you look good, bro. I'll tell you that.
I
On some real shit. There was I seen a huge fucking difference. You posted a
And then
fucking shirtless pic for the ladies.
I mean, that's it's one side, but it's also like and some people could say it's cringe or it's vain or whatever, but I say to those people, like,
It's
bro,
not.
be cringe. Post your workouts, post your runs, post
So
your whatever.
if that makes you feel better, who cares?
Well, you worked for it too.
Yeah.
I have a buddy. He has a gym out in Arvada, right? And I remember I'm like, you know, fucking. Might have been like 2016. I'm fucking 250, bro. I'm fat as fuck, right? And these guys are fit. Him and his little crew, right? And they're always with their shirts off, bro. I'd go to little parties with them. They fucking rip their shirts off, right? They're just shirtless, and I'm like, you guys are fucking pussies for this shit. And then I remember this motherfucker's like, bro, I work for this shit, dude. So he was like, I'm gonna take my shirt off anytime I can because I work for this shit.
like, I wanna show it
and
off.
he was like, bro, you get your ass in the gym and do this shit and you'll feel the same, bro. And I was like, dude, I don't know why that shit stuck to me. And I remember I was fucking having like a beer and I'm like, dude, this dude's right, bro. Like, he worked for that, so why not flaunt it, you know? So, like, going back to what you just said, yeah, be cringe, bro.
And
show
it's-
it off, dog, you know?
It's not even, and some of it is for, honestly, bro, like, you know, I mean, it sounds kind of vain or whatever, but I have a big enough platform or enough reach through, you know, the shows to the social media pages or whatever in that sense, to where the messages that I get from people out there that say like, oh man, like you inspired me to do this, or you inspired change in my life through what you're doing, that's more of who that's for. Like for, you know, for some of the guys out there who are regularly training or who don't really care about it, whatever, or who think like, oh, that shit isn't for you.
Yeah,
Like, and that's
it's not.
fine. That's not for you in that sense, but it's more so for, it's more for that person who I was in 2017, who I was, you know, in 2018 when I was first kind of starting along, and I'm searching for something that is bigger than what my existence at that point was. That person who is sitting there working that job, who fucking hates their life, who's going to the Chili's across the parking lot and is having 2-for-1s during lunch and finishing the second half of the lunch day fucked up just to be able to get you through the rest of the day. Like, that was me at one point in time in life. And so if somebody could see that yes, you yourself can do it, that all it takes is having a little bit of discipline and faith within yourself, or believing in something that's just bigger than what's right immediately in front of you, that's who it's for. that's who those messages go out to. And I say, I mean, it's maybe people don't understand it, but when you see some of the messages that I get, or some of the stuff that I got from some people out there, that, man, like, you were a part of what inspired me to, you know, to go down my fitness journey or whatever path. Yeah. I had a buddy a childhood friend who a couple of years back got married, is now, you know, he's a very successful dude within his business endeavors, and his wife as well at the same time. They have an amazing little kid too. But before they got married, he was a much bigger, softer bodied sort of person. And he's like, bro, like, I saw you lose the weight and I saw you get into shape, and that kind of gave me confidence that I could go do it too.
Well, it hits home, right? Because he knows you personally.
Right.
You know, because it's easy to see that.
Kids.
Yeah, it's easy to see the fucking guy that you don't know that's fucking shredded, right? But it's when it's like your homeboy,
right,
you're like, okay, this motherfucker did it and I can't. And to touch on that, bro, I started like running probably over a year ago. And I run a lot, dude.
Yeah.
And I always post like my watch, right? And I'm like, dude, I'm posting the same shit all the time I run. But then I was like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. And then I've gotten those type of messages where they're like, bro, you made me fucking want to start running.
Right.
What shoes do you fucking recommend? And I'm like, dude, I've got a bunch of messages, dude, that like I even have a run club now.
Right.
And these motherfuckers are like, yeah, dude, this is cool, bro.
You
like,
got my ass out of bed.
Yeah, and I'm like, damn, bro, I didn't know I had that type of impact on people, but it's super dope,
dude.
It's
crazy because everybody wants to do better. I honestly believe everybody wants to be better. And when you see somebody like that, you're like, holy shit, he went from that to this.
Yeah, because I told him, I grew up with him, and I was, 250, and I was like, bro, I'm going to get down to like 180, 185. He was like, dude, that's fucking like 80 fucking pounds, bro. Right. And then next thing you know, like I get down, this dude's like, you're one disciplined motherfucker, bro. Yeah. This motherfucker started lifting weights all the time and shit. And I was like, yeah, bro, like you could do it, you know?
He just said something that stuck with me when you said that Yusuf told you nobody likes running, because that was my line. I hate running. I hate running. And when you said that, I was like, damn, I need to start running.
Yeah.
I need it.
It's with running, I have such a love-hate relationship. Like I hate doing it sometimes, but I love the way it makes me feel.
The way they make
and I think not even so much physically, bro.
The runner's high.
The runner's high, yeah.
Yeah, it's and the runner's high is one thing, but it's more or less it's the feeling of accomplishment, or that like it's something that I didn't want to do, that I don't necessarily like doing. I went and I fucking did it anyway, and it's setting that goal of, like we're running this. Like the other day I went up to Waterton Canyon. I was like, I'm going and I'm hitting that 4-mile marker off of the trail and I'm making it back. Like come hell or high water, may need to slow up, do whatever during certain points, but we're making it through this. Or, that day, like, okay, you're running this 3-mile loop around this lake. Like, no, bitch. You made this fucking deal with yourself. You signed the contract in your head.
Some Kobe shit.
It. You know what I mean? Like, you signed the contract to yourself. You can't fall short of it, because if you're not doing this when nobody's watching, then you don't deserve to do the things when everybody's watching.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way that I look at it.
You gotta feel comfortable doing the uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Is
it
what
goes back
got
to some
told
of the the earlier stuff from being an athlete or whatever growing up, which this is a whole different wormhole, but I think all kids should be in sports or some sort of sport when they're growing up.
Because it teaches discipline.
Exactly. It teaches you discipline.
It teaches you a greater goal too. It's like you're not doing it for you, it's you doing it for the team.
For the team, there's always the goal, right?
Yeah.
There's
and
always
even if
the
it's
end goal.
individual stuff, like, if you're doing wrestling or whatever when you're young, or now there's a lot of kids who are doing jiu-jitsu like jiu-jitsu wasn't a thing like for kids to do back when I was growing up in the 90s. Like there was, you could probably count on your hand the amount of jiu-jitsu schools that were around in the 90s in Colorado. Definitely was none in Pueblo or in southern Colorado that way. But, just being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, or, being a part of something that you couldn't achieve without having that sort of dedication and hard work, I think is something that kids learn through sports, is that dedication, that discipline, that wanting to go and have a goal and achieve it.
The win, yeah.
Exactly, the will to win, the hunger to go out there and to be successful, or to produce something that wouldn't have happened by just being by yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe it not always be sports. For some kids, maybe sports isn't your thing. But be a part of like some sort of club or activity. For some it's
fucking do chess club, bro.
Exactly, chess club. Or for some kids, maybe it's choir, it's band, it's theater, it's drama, it's whatever. But in order to achieve anything of measured success in any of those, you're gonna have to have discipline. You're gonna have to put in the work. You're gonna have to do the shit when nobody is watching, okay, well, I mean, I don't know things from my choir or whatever, but maybe you aren't able to hit a certain note or a tone or something. Well, you got to practice that shit, right? Or same thing like playing in a band. Well, this may be a hard like portion of this song. Well, how do you get to that point to where you can play it, and then when you go out, when you're doing the march in the parade or on the field, or you're in some sort of like symphony setting, whatever, how do I make this sound that like, okay, this is exactly what it was supposed to be? That takes practice, that takes dedication, that takes a discipline to the art within itself. I relate most things to sports because that's how I grew up.
Yep.
And I grew up in the era of hard-ass coaches, or my dad was a hard-ass coach in that sense. Like I say, he was like Coach Mark, level 10. So that's why I think
He's like,
that
get your fat ass on the ground and fucking do those push-ups.
Like, having a bad game, like, you fat fucking pussy, what are you doing? Like, that sort of shit, like those things.
You scared
like,
to get hit?
like some of those things that was said back then, like, bro, I'm like the fucking water. I'm a head case when it comes to some of that shit. Like, we're like, when it gets to a point of like, all right, like, my legs are starting to burn, whatever, and a run, whatever, but then it's like the water boy. When the water boy starts seeing like the different heads, like, hey, water boy, you're like all those things. Like, I start hearing those voices or seeing those things pop up, and it's like, no, like, you think I can't? Fuck you, let's go.
Yeah. I think at that point it's more mental then, but
becomes
that's
the
what it
mental
teaches,
Right.
So
It just allows you to tap into that mental side of things so that you can prevail physically.
100%.
I call it the reserve tank. Once you're tired, then that's when
It's
the
all will at that
yeah,
point, right?
that's
It's like,
that's when you really know if you want to do it or not.
yeah, it's like who's fucking, the way I look at it, sorry your kids are behind the cameras, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see whose dick is bigger now, especially in my sport, in the fight world. I'm like, you come to that third round and both of you guys are tired. I'm like, all right, dude, now it's a pissing contest,
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, at least. And I'm like, I'm telling you, my dick's bigger, bro. That's the way I look at it,
Absolutely. It's a war of attrition, and sometimes that war is won and lost inside of the mind. Your mind could be the strongest or the weakest muscle in your body. Your body is usually always, like, from an actual physical threshold, you're typically always going to have more to give than what you mentally think that you have. Like David Goggins, he's one of those guys that he gets a little bit of like reaction on both sides of things. But when I was first starting along the journey, like, of getting back to being healthy or staying through being a disciple of discipline, like, a lot of his book Can't Hurt Me, I probably listened to that audiobook like 6 times over the years. But he talks about the 40% threshold, about how when you think that you're maxed out, you're really only at about 40%.
Yeah,
so being willing to continue to push through some of those barriers, and sometimes, hey, like, an actual injury may present itself. Like, sometimes you do kind of go a little bit too far than what your body can hold, but
sometimes it's not 40. Sometimes you're redlining.
but the only way that you figure out where some of those limits are, or the
Is
only
by
way
doing
that you
it.
Exactly, is by putting the rubber to the road and actually doing it. And sometimes, you got to go through a little bit of that tendonitis, or some muscle strains and pulls and all of that, to know that, like, yeah, the mechanism failed, but the mind didn't. I still have more to go.
Yeah.
Like yesterday,
The body gave up, but the mind didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember one time I called this dude. I'm like, I think I tore my bicep. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I can't stretch my arm all the way. He's like, do you see a bump? Is it bruised? I'm like, no.
Fucking.
He's like, no, you just worked out. Like, you actually worked out today.
I'm like, you're sore, bro. Stop
I'm like,
being a bitch.
what do you mean? He's like, yeah, you actually worked out today. Every other time, this time you worked out. I was like,
You
damn.
pushed it. Yeah, you
All
pushed.
right.
You pushed past your
if
limits.
it's tore, especially like, you're gonna know. Like,
Yeah,
there's
dude, that
physical
shit
signs,
fucked.
like, yeah, you're gonna have a ball that's like all the way up into your arm, and it's gonna look like a crazy lump up by your front delt. There's gonna be actual signs where, and hey, sometimes that shit does happen.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's more or less your mind is trying to tell you to quit.
Yeah.
Your mind is trying to tell you to stop. But once you go through enough of the reps and forging yourself by being in the fire, like, he's kind of like persona non grata in our fight world now, but a guy who I used to also learn a ton from was James Krause. And there's a famous speech that Krause gave to us one time, and it's still up on YouTube somewhere, but the whole premise of the speech was, don't be a bitch. And he talked about having 501 mentality, and it was basically the essence of what he said was that anybody can be a gangster for 5 minutes, like, pairing it with like fight terms. Like, anybody can go out there and be a stud for 5 minutes, but after you're done with your bullshit, are you ready to be in the dark place? Because I live in that. Like, when you come knocking on my door, I'm ready. And if you don't put me out in 5 minutes, then it's my turn. So that's what you have to start telling yourself in your
It's when
mind.
you take that fucking hard body shot in sparring, bro. It's like,
And
dude.
sometimes that's in life, bro.
It's like, bro, you gotta fucking get the fuck up, you know?
Right.
Because it's funny. I went to a gym yesterday, and he's an amateur fucking fighter. His name's Austin. And I body shot the fuck out of him, bro. I put him down, and his coach stepped in, and he was like, "Good job, Alex. Thank you." And he was like, "The fight would have been fucked. You would have been over, bro." He was like, "You need to fucking take that body shot and not show it and fucking just, go after it." He was like, "You would have been fucking flatlined right now." And that's kind of what we're talking about. It's like, dude, you do got to put yourself in that fucking fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, or else you won't get past it,
Exactly. And that's what he wrapped up that speech with is like being a G. Like, how do you become a G? You
Yup.
put yourself in the fire every fucking day, and you're either getting your ass busted or you're busting motherfuckers' asses until it happens. But the only way that you can actually get to that point, and it's again kind of circling back to like that point of self-actualization, the only time where you can finally get comfortable to be able to go stand there in the fire, and again, that's business, personal, profession, like sports, whatever
the fuck you're
whatever
doing.
the portion of life is that you're facing. The only way that you can get to that level of self-actualization, have that confidence, is by being in the fire that many times to where you failed more times than most people have tried. That's what it comes down to. To really have success in anything in life, you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to look stupid. You have to be willing to face the downs more than you'll ever face the ups, but you'll achieve those ups because you were willing to go through the downs.
That's just what it is. You got to get your ass beat a couple times if you're
Yep.
in the combat sports.
Right.
You got to get your ass beat, and then you'll fucking start whooping motherfuckers' ass, But you all got to start.
Well, I mean, I'm sure like you can relate to from the business side or whatever. Like you probably have countless deals that have fallen through. From real estate to whatever. You go and you show X amount of places, and maybe they don't close,
Yep.
or maybe that person was not qualified for that sort of opportunity that you were presenting to them, or whatever it may be. But you can't just say, "Oh man, like this didn't close. Like, oh fuck, this sucks. I'm not doing it
to the
again."
next one.
No, you got to go to the next one.
Yeah.
You got to continue to move forward. And that like business to like baseball was a big sport of mine growing up. Well, bro, like if you fail 3 out of 10, or if you only succeed 3 out of 10 times, that means that you're failing 70% of the time. In Major League Baseball, you're a fucking Hall of Famer if you're batting 300 over the course of a career. You know what I mean? So that means that you have to be comfortable with failure in order to achieve success. And if you allow for that previous at bat where maybe you struck out, you ground into a double play, you just had a shit at bat where you tilted or you rolled over and it wasn't something that you reached base safely on. If you allow that to stay within your mental space, then you're not gonna have success in that next at bat. You've got to be able to clear the mechanism and be able to approach like, okay, what is directly in front of me? What's this next pitch? Okay, what's the situation? What's right here in front of me right now? Being present in the moment.
You got to move on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you ever played golf?
I've played golf. Not gonna act like I'm good at golf. Do have
No,
a hole in one.
but it's almost the same thing you're talking about.
Exactly.
You have a shitty fucking hole, and
Yep.
dude, because I've been playing golf for a couple years now, and in the beginning, that's how it was, bro. I'd shoot shitty the first fucking 2-3 holes, and I was like, then I'd have a shitty day.
Yep.
Because I'm like, dude, I fucked that hole up. Now my score and this and that. And one of my buddies that fucking is really good, he was like, who gives a fuck, bro? That already happened. Focus on this fucking hole now. And I'm like, damn, dude, I never even
qualifying for the
thought of it.
PGA over here.
Yeah, bro, and I didn't even think about it like that. I'm like, yeah, you're right, bro. Like, why the fuck am I thinking about the first hole when it's fucking, I'm already on the 12, So,
Exactly.
100%, I think that's how it is in life, bro, just in general,
It's
life
like
in
Dustin
general.
Jacoby says, short-term memory, bulletproof confidence.
There you go.
Sometimes you got to go through it to get to it.
Fuck yeah. That's fucking dope, man. But, yeah, to wrap it up, man, first things first, I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was
thanks
awesome.
You're more than
thanks for
welcome to
coming
come
by.
anytime. Where can they find you at for the people that are fucking listening?
Yeah, you guys can follow me along on Instagram and on Threads at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. On TikTok, it's the Peanut Gallery MMA. I've got my weekly talk show, the MMA Plug, on Mile High Sports. That's Wednesdays every 2 p.m. That's live, but you can also catch the replays on the Mile High YouTube channel.
Is that okay? That's on YouTube.
Yep, that's through their digital channels there. It's also on, I think it's on like Spotify, Spreaker, all those digital like distribution systems. But mainly, where you can see like the show live is through YouTube, or they broadcast it on their different socials like X Live, all those sort of things. I still call it Twitter most of the time, but X. Yeah. All of those. We have Colorado Combat Club. There's going to be our next show for that on January 31st.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, a veteran of our Triple C cage there. Also have 5280 Muay Thai. There is Colorado Jiu-Jitsu Club. We just had a show this last Friday night. You can follow us there at the CJJC Cage. So doing a lot of big things in the grappling world with that show, different combat sports sort of formats and realms of, I guess, rules and competition sets that we have that we're doing through that. We have our main pro shows, but then we also do little one-offs called grapple games where it's just a different subset of rules. Like sometimes we do card jitsu. Sometimes we'll do a match to where, okay, well, you guys both come in. Like if you guys are going against each other, you're going to draw out of hat and you pick which submission. That's the only submission that you can go for that round. You guys don't know what each other's attack is. Only the referee knows what your submission is, and then you go from there. And it resets each round if you don't get that submission. So we do a lot of cool things there, and then also I do some work with airtight boxing, and yeah, that's pretty much the rundown of where you
And
can follow.
videos, right? You do.
Yep.
You do that as a job as well, right? You
Yeah,
do video editing, all that
freelance
shit.
video editing,
For all the
content
fighters and
creation,
shit.
a lot of that stuff, photography, videography. Just a couple of shout outs to a couple of other sponsors out there. I've got QMPco, it's a hat company out here in the Denver area. Jorge takes great care of me. I love that guy out there. He actually shoots some content in the process too. But QMPco, amazing hat company out there that is Denver based, so you're supporting a local business in the process. I've also got to give a shout out to ECB Sports Management. They've been great supporters of mine all the way along. Ed is a great dude. Ed's another one who's gone through a crazy fitness journey over the last few years. At one point was, I think, upwards of like 450 and is now down in the 200s.
Let's go.
Has lost over like 200 pounds in the process.
He's lost a full person.
Yeah, he's lost a full person in the process. So, just want to give a shout out to some of those guys out there, and naturally, got to give a shout out to my crew over at Factory X and with everybody at Mile High Sports. My producer Danny over there, he keeps me in line each and every week. So sometimes I'm a little bit of a ball of fire when I start getting on my runs or on my rants, and Danny's able to keep me in the mix. So I appreciate everybody who's helped support it and help just be a process along the way. And circling all back to everything, I got to give such a huge shout out to Coach Market at Yusuf.
Let's go. And our end, huge shout out to our sponsors, Egress Inc. and Thrive Homes. Everybody else out there, thanks for watching.